How's it going, everybody? Doka here. With the Mario movie on the horizon, I've been thinking a lot lately about what else is in store for Nintendo's leading man. With a production this large and it being Mario's first time on the big screen since the 80s, I can imagine that Nintendo would want to put out a new Mario game alongside the film to create a little bit of brand synergy and drum up more hype for a new game through some cross-promotion. And while Nintendo could do a tie-in game for the movie, I get the feeling that Nintendo is going to want to keep the movies and the games pretty separated from each other. Instead, I think we're finally going to get the next big 3D Mario game in 2023. This feels like a pretty safe bet when you consider that Breath of the Wild is finally getting its follow-up next year, so it feels like a new Mario game has been right around the corner, regardless of the movie. So without further ado, on to my thoughts on what Nintendo could bring to a new Mario title, because oh boy, seeing those recent trailers for the movie has gotten my gears turning. First things first, I want to talk about story. The mainline Mario games have always been fairly light in the story department, so I'm not expecting something on the level of Paper Mario or the other RPG games. But I want to see something that breaks the mold of Bowser kidnaps Peach, Mario goes on an adventure, Mario saves Peach. It's a little overdone at this point, don't you think? So this time, I want to see Bowser have a much bigger scope for his grand scheme this time around. So strap in, it's story time. I envision this game being a direct sequel to Odyssey. We start with Bowser still on the moon, wallowing in not only his defeat by Mario, but his rejection from Peach. Kamek comes to bring his king back from the moon, only to find Bowser being completely devoid of any sort of motivation. This leads Kamek to give Bowser a little bit of inspiration.
You are the king of the Koopas. You don't need that princess. You're a feared leader across the kingdoms. I say you show them your might once more.
And now this is where the movie inspired me in a huge way. We open the trailer by seeing Bowser going after the Kingdom of the Penguins. I want to see that side of Bowser in the games more. I know in the 2D games we always see these different lands that are occupied by Bowser's forces, but seeing it expanded on in a 3D Mario game would be so cool to see, and my idea goes further than just Bowser taking over some of the kingdoms. Mario Odyssey featured a ton of callbacks to Mario's history, and the entire game felt like a love letter to fans of the mustachioed plumber. I think that the sequel should be no different. In fact, I even see it doubling down. So here's my idea. Bowser realizes that he always gets defeated by Mario, time and time again. So rather than stretching himself too thin with his ambitions this time around, I want to see Bowser team up with and/or recruit some of Mario's past adversaries in order to aid him in his conquest. Think about it. You could bring back Tatanga from Super Mario Land and have him take over Sarasa Land again. Wart could come back and bring in a Subcon-inspired kingdom with him. Maybe even make a return to Isle Delfino with Bowser Jr. ruling over the islands. Who knows? Even Wario could return for a more antagonistic role again. I feel like there's so much they could do with this concept that breaks away from the traditional Mario versus Bowser dynamic. I could even see if Nintendo wanted to delve into more offshoots of the Mario universe, they could do a spooky themed kingdom with King Boo, or hell, if they want to start promoting Donkey Kong more considering he's going to be in the new movie, maybe a kingdom on DK's island with K. Rool back in control. That one feels so out of left field, which is why I want it to happen so much. I think bringing back older villains alongside their respective kingdoms, so to speak, would bring something super fresh to the Mario formula. So about that Mario formula, we still need to talk about gameplay. I think that Cappy, or at least the new mobility options Mario received in Odyssey, have to stay. Whether this new 3D entry is a direct Odyssey sequel or just a brand new 3D entry, I think that these options need to be part of Mario's moveset going forward. It adds so much nuance to the platforming that taking it away would feel like a step backwards. Mario's new moves feel like such a natural evolution of Mario's platforming, and I truly believe that this needs to be the standard for 3D Mario going forward. Now comes the big question of how exactly do we build upon Odyssey's gameplay? Obviously, you gotta do something new, otherwise it'll just feel like something that could have been tacked onto the first game. For example, Galaxy 2 added Yoshi alongside multiple new power-ups, and while I'm not so sure about Yoshi being a part of this new game, I think that new power-ups would definitely be interesting. Now when I say power-ups in this case, I don't mean new capturable enemies, which of course there are going to be more of anyways in an Odyssey sequel. I mean more traditional Mario power-ups. I think that the best way to go about this would be to have Cappy getting powered up rather than Mario himself. For example, if we were to grab a Fire Flower, all of a sudden Cappy would have a Fire Elemental effect added to him when thrown. Same goes for the Ice Flower naturally. And to go further with the idea of Cappy getting getting powered up, it would be the perfect time to bring back the Mario 64 power-ups since they were cap-based in that game. You could easily bring back the wing cap and metal cap and just have them updated to change Cappy's properties this time around. Going beyond moveset potential, I want to touch on how the kingdoms would function this time around. So I still think we're going to have Mario traveling via the Odyssey to all these different kingdoms, but I think that the way that they're structured this time around is going to be a bit different. If we are going with the idea of past Mario bosses taking over these various kingdoms, it would make sense for the kingdoms to be populated. I'm thinking something like how Isle Delfino was in Sunshine. Have sort of a central hub where you can talk with locals, maybe take on side objectives, but where it would differ from Sunshine would be in the way that you go to the different levels and courses. I'm picturing something that is a hybrid between Bowser's Fury and Odyssey's more open sandbox style. So with the Odyssey style, we've already seen what I want for these new kingdoms in places like Tostarena, a little central city or town area where you can talk with NPCs and buy items, and then outside the kingdom is fully open to explore. I want that aspect to stay fairly the same for the sequel, but what I want to see added is to have some areas within the kingdom that act like smaller dedicated type platforming sections, sort of like in Bowser's Fury. This would allow for players to play the game with more of the 3D Mario style that they prefer. In Odyssey, there were so many moons to collect, and while you didn't need to collect all of them to progress, a large chunk of the moons just felt like wandering around, almost like hunting the Koroks in Breath of the Wild. So by having the moons split up between the more sandbox collectathon style and the more rigid platforming style, players could choose which moons they wanted to go for based on their preferred playstyle. Mario becoming a lot more non-linear where you can truly pick and choose the things you want to do in the game is definitely a direction I want to see Nintendo take 3D Mario in. So finally, we gotta address the big elephant in the room. As much as I want it, co-op. I really don't think that we're going to see co-op in the traditional sense in a true 3D Mario game like Odyssey. The way that the game is structured feels like it just wouldn't work as well with two players. Now I think if the co-op was online instead of local, then maybe it could work. But with the current state of how Nintendo handles their online, I could see a lot of desync issues happening in a game like this, but who knows? Maybe Nintendo will fix their online by that point and we can get a true multiplayer 3D Mario game. That is the dream. What I do think we are going to see is more playable characters. Perhaps this involves Peach getting a bigger role, especially if we're moving away from the typical kidnapping plot of a Mario game. In the post-game for Mario Odyssey, we were able to see Peach traveling around the different kingdoms with Tiara. If Tiara has abilities similar to Cappy, I could totally see Nintendo having Peach as a post-game playable character, similar to how Luigi is in the Galaxy games. And if you factor in Peach's colliding abilities with her umbrella, this could open up for more platforming challenges in the post-game. And if we wanted to expand to even more playable characters with slightly different abilities from Mario, maybe bringing back the caps from 64DS would be the way to go. You already have the centric gimmick from Odyssey being centered around Mario's hat, so why not just run with it? I'm probably getting way ahead of myself with all these different ideas for a 3D Mario, but I really do want Nintendo to go big for the next game. They returned to the sandbox formula with Odyssey and modernized it in such a way that struck a chord with so many people, myself included. Now they just need to keep building upon that formula and coming up with new ways to innovate it and take it even further. Once again, with the Mario movie coming next year, hopefully we won't have to wait too long to see what's in store for the plumber. Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. I'm constantly thinking about game ideas like this, so it's nice to really sit down and convey some of those ideas to a larger audience. And of course, I would love to see some of your ideas too. So leave your thoughts down below and feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Later.